Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Get connected, Fitchburg. Sign up for Fitchburg Connect, the city's monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
Call to order the meeting of the Transportation and Transit Commission on April 9th, 2026 at 6:35 p.m. First item of business is public appearances for non-agenda items. Oh, I guess we do have quorum, but I am the vice chair and I'm acting as chair until our chair arrives. First item of business is public appearances for non-agenda items. We do have members of the public with us, but nobody here to speak on non-agenda items. So we'll move on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Any edits to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. We will move forward to item 4, approval of minutes. I'll need a motion on the approval of the February 12th, 2026 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion to approve and seconded. Any comments, questions, changes?
I have one. I just noticed that Maggie's last name is spelled incorrectly at the very beginning.
So we'll just take that as a friendly amendment change.
So, I got you.
Hearing nothing else, we can take it to a vote. All in favor of approving the February 12th, 2026 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is staff report. Ross, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I guess first thing, just kind of a note on the agenda. You might have seen I have suggested discussion times. Happy to take any comments on those that you have. We can
Love
probably do
that.
that after the
Change.
meeting. So wanted to start off my staff report with just a couple of comments on the East Sherrill fatal bike crash from a couple of weeks ago. So the victim, Steve Mosley, was hit at approximately 4 a.m. The driver basically jumped the curb and drove along the bike path specifically to hit him, apparently, and then drove into the City Hall parking lot, rammed a police vehicle, which damaged 2 police vehicles, and then was arrested for that, and then subsequently police found out that he had hit the victim. So it's obviously a tragic action and very unfortunate, but we don't have like a discussion item or anything on it in this committee because it was intentional and not specifically road safety related. At this point, it also doesn't seem to be due to something like an anti-bicycle sentiment or something like that. The person that was arrested hasn't said anything to that effect. So if anything like that comes out, I will definitely let everyone know. So moving on to Metro Transit. So last time we met, I think I told you that Metro Transit was preparing a report card for kind of their service related to all of their municipal partners. We're expecting to get that report card this month, and once we get it, Metro has said they will speak at a city meeting. Originally that was going to be at TTC, but now the city administrator and mayor have suggested that that be at like a committee of the whole or common council meeting. So I'll let you guys know when that happens.
Will they be aware that there will be lots of questions about bus route extensions and expansion?
Yes, I
Okay.
have already let them know, and I'm planning on having a meeting with them before.
Yeah, because if they come and they don't send someone that can answer those questions,
Yeah.
they're not gonna have a very fun time.
Yeah. And
Neither will we.
yeah. Side note, Logan, thanks for not asking all those questions of the Metro person that was at the last committee of the whole meeting, because they were not prepared to answer them, so.
Good at reading a room.
For those of us that don't regularly attend either city council or committee of the whole, can you give us a reasonable amount of advance notice?
Yes.
What meeting this will be?
Yes, as soon as I have a date, I will email this commission.
We will usually know about a month in advance,
Yeah.
sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of committee of the whole, round trip, and then also myself, presented at the last committee of the whole meeting on the 25th of March. So round trip presented kind of on all the stuff they do. They talked about their Learn to Ride Metro event that one was happening on the 31st of March. And then they also talked about their Learn to Ride B-Cycle event, which is happening at McKee Farms Park on May 6th at 9 a.m. So if you want to learn how to ride B-Cycle, you can go to that, or you can participate in the group ride that will go along with that. There's also the Spring Roll Challenge, which you can sign up on the Round Trip app. Basically, if you convert like a car ride to some other form of transportation, you can win prizes through the month of April. And then I presented on our annual resurfacing project, so feel free to watch the video if you want more info. And we'll have a public information meeting on that coming up shortly. That's not yet scheduled, but it'll be, actually I believe it's on the 26th of April, so. Also, I've got the Basics Act. So basically, this is an act that's going through Congress right now at the federal level. This would increase STBG funding and HSIP funding, both of which Fitchburg uses. STBG is Surface Transportation Block Grant. And then HSIP is Highway Safety Improvement Program. So this basically boosts the amount of money we would be able to get from those programs, which would be great. We basically have one of each project, I would say every other year. So, Wayland Road, the engineering department has recently had to spend a little bit less time on parks projects, so I was able to hand that Wayland Road project off to the engineer who used to do the parks projects. So he's been working on that. If you're in Alder, you probably know Zach Laundrie, who you'd talk to if TDS runs amok in your district.
Now you tell me.
Yeah. And so basically those plans are 90% complete. We have 4 property owners we need to get on board, and Zach has gotten 3 of the 4 of them on board. So we have 1 more, and then we're gonna be able to bid that project and get it done this year.
And this is bike lanes, right?
This is the paved shoulders.
Paved shoulders, yes.
Yes. We're not planning on any condemnations for this project, but they're specifically paved shoulders to stay away from the condemnation issues that bike facilities bring. So.
It's a good tease for a few upcoming agenda
Yeah. Lacey and Highway 14 development updates. So there's 3 developments here: No Oaks Ranch, Osborne Home Farm, and Syncopation. So these are all kind of surrounding that Lacey and 14 interchange. We've gotten a TIA from one of them, and then the other 2 are going to submit TIAs soon. The 2 that haven't submitted TIAs are proposing some changes to their preliminary plats, so once they have things a little more ironed out, they'll submit the TIAs, and we'll be able to review them all kind of as one package, since they all impact kind of the same intersections.
And that's traffic impact analysis.
Yes,
Yes.
TIA is a traffic impact analysis. That's a good point. So basically they have to submit how many new trips they're gonna generate based on the development, and then we say, they suggest improvements to intersections, new traffic signals, roundabouts, stuff like that. And we say, yes, this sounds good, or no, you need to do more work to mitigate this new traffic. So those improvements are going to cost a decent amount of money. Part of that will likely be borne by the city because some of those are due to background traffic through the rest of the city and not due to the actual developments themselves. So we will be working out a cost share between those 3 developments and the city. So that's to be determined. We're having a bunch of meetings this week and next week about that. Rimrock Road, which is a county project, has been delayed until 2027, so that's just a resurfacing project. But the construction of that will be in 2027 now. It was supposed to be in 2026, but it's been delayed. And Vision Zero. So I finally received the grant agreement from the Greater Madison MPO, and it is currently being reviewed by the city attorney. And I hope to have an RFP, a request for proposal, issued this month for a consultant to complete that plan.
Right.
So I will probably make the deadline for those proposals sometime in May, probably closer to the end of May, since this is a very big plan and I want well thought out proposals. But once I have that schedule a little more firmed up, I will present that to this commission. I just got this agreement like 4 hours ago, so.
I remember last year at this time when we were just like not sure that was ever gonna come through,
Yeah.
so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And how much is Fitchburg's portion of that?
So our total that we're planning to spend for that plan is $300,000, and it's an 80-20 federal share and local share.
And just for anyone watching, that's for the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
Correct, yes. So I'll probably start referring to it as the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan if we're talking about that specific plan, and then Vision Zero if we're talking about like projects we're going to do as a result of that plan, if that makes sense.
And do we have our local match in the budget or available in the TID closure, I assume, maybe for the grant matching?
Yeah, so it's part of that grant matching fund. So it's not specifically called out in the budget, but that fund is to be able to take advantage of grant opportunities like this. So, yeah, and that is my staff report. So, any questions?
There were some new emails about closing streets in the city of Fitchburg that the city staff started sending out. What about those?
That is a good point. So yeah, basically city staff, specifically Dakota Dorn in our GIS department, created a new system that we're using for road closures. So previously we would just copy and paste an old email list to all of like the bus companies and EMS and the mayor and council and people like that to tell them when a road was going to be closed and how closed it was going to be, whether it's open to emergency vehicles, open to local traffic, or completely closed, you can't physically drive through it. Now we have a map on the city website. It's if you go on the city open data page and scroll down to the road closures map, you can see all of the road closures in Fitchburg, and that tool automatically updates Google Maps and Apple Maps and closes those roads so they won't route people through our construction zones, which is actually an issue because whenever I'm out on site, I tell people they can't drive through and they say, well, Google Maps sent me this way. Well, that sucks for you. You can't drive through. So that will be very helpful. And it also sends out emails automatically. And Rick brought up some good points with the first one we sent out that we need to be a little bit more specific about certain things. So we've updated some stuff, and hopefully the next round will be a little bit clearer.
So the text in the email is generated automatically by the tool?
So some of the text is. The kind of 2 or 3 sentence description is written by the project manager of that project. So that's where we made some changes and said, okay, if you're typing this in, you need to include from this street to this street and some other more specific information. Because one of the issues was East Sherrill was closed from Green Market to Lacey, but the email made it sound like all of East Sherrill was closed, which is obviously a much bigger deal.
Well, traffic.
Yeah. And the portion from Green Market to Lacey is pretty much unused right now. After this construction, it'll be used a lot more because there will be buildings there, but yeah.
And the other issue we observed is that the link to the map is, can't be zoomed in on the street that is closed. So you see the entire city and you see a tiny red line or dot where some street closure is, and then you need to zoom and scroll in order to find that particular street.
So I was actually corrected about that. I think I said in my email to you that we can't fix that.
Yes.
And then our GIS specialist said that we can. So
Oh, good.
I
Okay.
believe that is now fixed.
Okay.
But I have not followed up with him on that since I've been out of the office.
It looked like the software that does that mapping has the capability as long as you have the right authoring tool.
Right, which I think we do. And I think early on in the process, we didn't think we could do that, and then he played around with it some more and figured out we could.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of late on the uptake there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And Ross, just to clarify for that tool as well, mostly for the viewing public here, road closures are not, that are showing up here are not just limited to construction. Things like when it's closed for the Agora Art Fair, when East Sherrill's closed there, that'll show up as well.
Exactly.
The Birdie Derby, make sure I don't call it the Burby Derby. All those types of things will show up there as well, correct?
Yep. And like more community-based events like 9 Bark at the Moon, the Swan Creek Block Party, that'll show up on there too.
Fantastic.
So,
It's like Fitchburg event trivia.
see how many names we can get.
I love that it automatically updates people on Apple Maps. And
Yes.
That's super great.
It'll be very nice. And even if you're not navigating somewhere, I know a lot of people just have their phone up or the map on your car shows up and it'll show us closed on there. So, yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
I was just gonna ask Ross if you could send me the TIAs or ATIAs for those 3 developments in Uptown, if and as you feel comfortable sharing them, and they're in a place that is comprehensible to a lay person and not an engineer. If you think that's something that could be done. I anticipate getting even more questions about that as all those developments go through, as I've already gotten quite a few from last year with Sutton Road, about traffic uptown, so.
So, none of those TIAs are finalized yet. The process that happens is the developer sends us a TIA, the Public Works Department being us. We review it, send them back revisions. They make those revisions and then usually they change stuff a few more times, so we have to revise again. But once they're final, I will talk with Tim and Tracy about sharing those. I don't know that we've done that in the past, but I'll talk to them about it, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so we can move on to item 6, discussion items. I will make a suggestion that we move the item E, Richardson and Schuman intersection review up to the top, so our. Oh, he's just here to observe, so. So that our guest speaker can get out of here earlier. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. All right, motion and a second. All in favor of amending the agenda to move item 6E up to now on the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So our next item is Richardson and Schuman intersection review. Ross, would you like to give an introduction first, or should we have Bill give his comments?
I can give a little bit of an introduction. So basically, this was brought to my attention most recently by the mayor, but this is an intersection that has been on my radar for a while. Like a lot of the intersections in this neighborhood, the intersection of Richardson, Schuman, and McKee Park Path kind of is a path that kind of just spits out into the road. There's no sidewalk in this neighborhood, which kind of poses a safety issue when you're trying to figure out how to transition from biking on the road to getting onto a path. We're restricted from putting sidewalk in this neighborhood because of resolution R 185-16, which needs 75% of affected residents to vote yes on new sidewalk in order to install it. So yeah, that's kind of my brief introduction. This is kind of a review of both vehicle speeds and traffic and this bike connection. So we're kind of trying to fight two separate but related issues here. So yeah, I guess with that, Bill, do you want to?
Yeah, could you pull up this on one half of the screen and the street mix on the other half?
Yeah.
So we have Alder Bill Jetzer here to give public comment, and I'm not gonna limit you to 3 minutes, but I trust that you'll be responsible with that.
For the record,
Freedom.
For the record, Bill Jetzer, 2822 Richardson Street. If you pull up the map or something. No, I think it's good to have both views up.
This might get a little
Yeah.
cramped this way.
We moved this item up to now. Pressure's on for us, we're watching you.
Okay, so this is the first
Yeah, we'll go back up to Patrona after this,
We should be able
because
to.
we're on the last item right now. We just.
Boy, it's finicky.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, so the agenda packet tonight shows kind of a standard layout, which is parking at the curb, bike lanes in what I will call the door zone, and then travel lanes. So if you're on your bike, you've got cars immediately to your left, you've got parked cars potentially on your right, and the door could swing out at any time if somebody's not paying attention. And on the,
I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger just so people can see
Yeah.
what we're talking about. So this is kind of the standard, if you just think of a street with bike lanes.
yeah, if you scroll up a
and
little more, you
parking
can see the,
configuration.
7-foot wide parking,
Mhm.
4-foot wide bike lane, 11-foot wide travel lane.
Yep. So this is like if you asked any, senior level civil engineer to design a road with bike lanes, this is what they would draw in like 30 seconds. So.
Can I make a comment, or am I out of order?
Let's let Bill just
Yeah.
give his testimony kind of in a constrained way.
Okay, so the alternative that was put forward by, you can see the name up there, Mr. Steve Arnold, drew this up. This is the width of Richardson Street from curb face to curb face. We can put buffered bike lanes on there at the curb. And then, so northbound is just the bike lane, the buffer, and the travel lane. Southbound is the travel lane, parking lane, buffer, and bike lane. So we've got a parking protected bike lane on the southbound side there. And I do favor this, this configuration for the street for a number of reasons. One is, I think we can probably all agree that this is far safer if you wanted to send your kid out on a bike or an elderly person. There's more protection. You've got the curb on one side, so if there's a problem with a car, you can deviate safely toward the curb rather than, toward traffic or whatever. In terms of pedestrian safety, as Ross mentioned, there are no sidewalks in this neighborhood other than, I guess from Lacey Road up to Raritan-ish.
Yes, I think that's the right cross street.
So if
On
you're
the west side.
right, west side only. So if you're walking on the road, this configuration would allow pedestrians in that bike lane, which is 6 feet wide, So there is plenty of room, you know, if we're going single file, bikers can safely pass pedestrians. And even if there is a collision, I'd rather get hit by a biker than a car. In terms of driver safety, I don't know that there's really, I mean, it's a 25-mile-per-hour road, and we're talking about either configuration reducing the lane width somewhat, which may or may not, you know, at 25 miles per hour speed limit, that may or may not actually reduce any car traffic speeds. But regardless, there's not a lot of danger to a driver. The biggest danger would be what the drivers do to the bikers in the standard configuration, or to, you know, again, the southbound car lane would essentially be in the door zone of the parking, of the parked cars there. That being said, there is very little parking on Richardson Street. If you look at
Very few people utilize the parking. There's a lot of parking
plenty
available.
of plenty of capacity, very low utilization. So if you pull up Google Maps and you look at the satellite imagery, between McKee and Lacey, you will see 2 or 3 cars parked on the curb. If you look at this, you know, the Google Street View, and you traverse that whole distance, again, you'll see 2 or 3 cars at the curb. So there's not a whole lot of parking that's being utilized. So I guess that, you know, kind of segues in, you know, so we got biker safety, pedestrian safety, driver safety. Well, what about the people in those parked cars? How safe are they? And you know, for that, you would have to give you know, I think this configuration is less safe for those people than the more standard configuration, just because there's a bike lane there as a buffer between the parking and the traffic. Of course, having a bike lane with vulnerable road users essentially as the buffer between car traffic and a parked car is kind of an evil sort of a thing in my mind. But you know, it does make it safer. As is, you know, in this configuration, you have to be much more careful if you're on the driver's side and you're opening the door. Couple other considerations. Now, there is no center stripe in this one, whereas there was one in the agenda packet, and as far as I can tell, half of the people of the world think that a center lane will slow traffic down, and the other half thinks it will speed it up. So I'll just leave that to the traffic expert here. And then in terms of, you know, snow removal would be another thing that might come into play with the parking protected bike lane there. Northbound, there's never going to be a problem. Southbound, you know, the plows would have to work around whatever cars might be parked there. But again, there's very few of them, so maybe it doesn't matter. Kind of sums up everything, I think. So again, I do favor this version over the version that's in your packet.
Thanks, Bill. Ross, any further comments before we open up to discussion?
One thing just for like kind of a history on this neighborhood, which Bill has lived in for a long time.
30 years.
So he's probably better equipped to give this history than I am. But in the past, Richardson Street has been striped in a couple of different ways from my understanding. And more recently, that old paint was showing up through a new chip seal layer, which really confused a lot of people, and we got a lot of comments on it until we resurfaced that section of Richardson. So there is a little bit of kind of history and neighborhood knowledge of painting the road in this particular neighborhood. And like Bill mentioned, some residents think that striping the road turned it into a racetrack. And some people want the road striped again in order to slow down traffic. I've heard both things when we've been out there doing various projects. So,
What are the safety-
actual answer?
What do the safety studies say?
yeah, so safety studies say that visually narrowing a road by striping slows down traffic.
But about the center line?
So the center line, in my mind, but what Bill said about some studies showing one thing and some studies showing another is accurate. In my mind, it reduces confusion for everyone on the road because the center line is kind of the standard. Hello? We're talking about.
Do you want to
your-
speak about Richardson Street?
She's
Yeah, we
looking
did
right
that.
way.
Yeah.
I am in favor.
So, yeah, so the center line is kind of the standard configuration. Most roads, if there's any paint on them at all, it's a center line. And some drivers can get a little confused if there's bike lane striping and no center line striping. So,
Yeah, I thought that so background is to make drivers drive slow, you have to scare them. And by not painting a center line, they are more concerned about the oncoming traffic getting into their lane and not. And so therefore, my thinking, and I thought there were studies supporting this, but Ross would know better, that if you don't put a center line in, then people will drive slower. Now, I was not thinking about the nuance of unstriped versus striped. I'm pretty sure it's the case of no center line slows traffic when there are fog lines only. But I leave it to you.
yeah.
I want to clarify one thing about the bike lanes. Street View does not let me show concrete at pavement level as opposed to curb top level. And the 6 feet include the 2-foot gutter pan. We have other places in the city, we have 1-foot curb top and 1-foot gutter pan. But here is the more common case where we have a 6-inch curb top and a 2-foot gutter pan. So this is technically a 4-foot bike lane and a 2-foot gutter pan. And the recommendation for cyclists is to not ride in the gutter. And the reason that we always like the 1-foot gutter pan is because it moves that longitudinal seam that in some cases can deteriorate and catch a wheel farther from the main center of the path that the bicyclist is taking. So that's really kind of a 4-foot bike lane, although Street View is labeling it as 6-foot.
Yep.
I have some notes that were in the email to Ross that, I don't know if you have them handy. There were some other ones that are saying, for example, that the center line is not there because I think it slows traffic, but it would be there in the areas where there are curves. And you might be aware that Richardson Street has 2 kind of 45-degree bends as it goes through the neighborhood. And those were striped even when there were no other stripes. And that's the part that shows in the photograph that Ross used for his proposal.
Yep.
Rick, I think you had a comment.
Yeah. Everything else on our agenda had some context to it, and then this just randomly appeared. It had no context, there was no background information. Some people knew some background information, but for average TTC member or members of the public who might be interested in joining for particular topics in a meeting. So then Ross, you introduced this and you talked about an intersection where Richardson, Schumann, and a McKee Park path intersect, which to my mind is about 50 or 75 feet of street. And you had some concern about an intersection.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bill sat down and he went into great detail about bike lane design, and then you added some information about visual narrowing of streets and such. I see data in the agenda that says that the 85% speed on Richardson is 30, which I find hard to believe because I think people do speed on, but I've heard nothing in this context that says that we're attempting to lower the speed on Richardson Street. It just kind of, all of a sudden, we're redesigning it, we're paving it, and we're running some bike lanes down it, and I don't know where that came from. So there, that was unfiltered Rick.
Yeah.
We love unfiltered.
Your
Get a podcast.
your point on more context in the packet is well taken. I'll work to have that, have more of that context going forward. And I think as far as Alder Jetzer's comments go, since at this meeting he is a member of the public, his comments usually come before our discussion. Sure. But like you said, I included some daily volume of cars in the packet and the 85th percentile speed for both Richardson, Schumann, and then the volumes for the McKee Park path that we're talking about.
Is that why there's a counter out there right now?
Yes,
Okay.
so one of my staff members just put up a bike counter on this path.
Because it'd be lower in January.
Well, right. But we have conveniently about a year's worth of data from a counter further east on this same trail. And there are no turnoffs or anything in between that point and this point. So that's where this data is from. And then the counter that's up there now is more because I just bought 2 new bike counters and I wanted to test them. And this is the spot I was thinking about when they came in the mail. So, but yes, so this agenda item started off as being about this intersection specifically. And then it kind of snowballed into, okay, the best way to kind of protect people at this intersection is to give bikes on this path or going onto this path a place to go to or come from, which in this case, bike lanes are one of our only options because we can't put in sidewalk or multi-use paths along the roadway because of Resolution R 185-16. And in my mind, if you're gonna paint, 100 feet either side of an intersection with bike lanes, you might as well paint the whole road.
The whole road is 40 feet wide.
Yes.
So presumably, like we were talking about under Vision Zero, even though the complaints were about this intersection, you would want to head off problems at all similar intersections as well. And in this case, if you're running the striper, just go the whole distance.
Yes, so that's, I guess, a little bit more context there. And then another thing I'll say, Steve just mentioned the width of the road. One, there are several other roads in the city that are exactly as wide as Richardson and have exactly the same issues with cars going too fast, there not being any sidewalks, and having weird path intersections. And with the road being 40 feet wide, if you have the parking lanes on the outside, you can utilize part of that you can utilize that whole 2-foot curb pan width to get you basically 4 more feet of road width, because you have 2 feet of curb pan on each side. And then you can fit bike lanes and parking lanes on both sides of the road. So then you're not losing any parking, even though, as Alder Jetzer said, it's not very well utilized. That's one thing we hear from residents anytime we propose removing parking, is that if I have a party, where are my guests going to park?
the other side.
And if you restrict parking to only one side of the road, then in the wintertime, based on our current ordinances, you lose parking for half of the days of the winter because we have alternate side parking during the winter.
Maybe I'm remembering this from the Madison ordinance. I thought that streets that had parking only on one side were exempt from alternate side parking.
So they are,
Okay.
by the wording of our ordinance. We do still have issues where people, one, think they can't park on that side because they don't know our ordinance word for word. So they act like they can't park there. And we've had issues where some of our police officers give out tickets to cars that they shouldn't be, which if me or any other member of Public Works is made aware of that, we remind them of what our ordinance actually reads and they rescind the tickets. But sometimes we're not made aware of it and people get tickets for it anyway. So.
I have a couple of thoughts. I mean, I've seen this type of, I represent Richardson on the council, and it's certainly a question that you get all the time, and obviously it's an issue with Osmondson, and we've heard many things about these roads over the years, and I imagine that the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan may yield some specific suggestions, because I think the problem is that because we have so many roads that have this issue, we kind of have to address them all, right? Or we have to at least decide at what scale we're gonna address them, like what order we're gonna address them in, and maybe we decide based on the 85 percentile speed or something, and obviously funding permitting. This feels like a relatively inexpensive way to fix it, although I assume that there's a lot of potential confusions, like how do people know it's a parking lane and not a driving lane? Like, I don't know how that would, I'm sure there's questions that we can tackle. And I don't necessarily think we need to get into that today because we're not imminently about to paint these stripes, I don't believe. So like, I guess my question is in terms of procedure, are we gonna wait for the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan and then consider a solution like this in a broader sense and we plan for it? And do you have any concerns about a solution like that, or you feel like a solution like that's on the table?
I definitely think we could wait for the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. I think for kind of more complex areas or where we're proposing more expensive improvements, I think that's definitely the appropriate approach. Like you said, in this case, this paint would probably cost $40,000 to $50,000 for the mile of road between Lacey and McKee, which is fairly inexpensive for a traffic calming measure on full mile road. And as far as prioritization goes, of the streets in Fitchburg, of the neighborhood streets in Fitchburg that are 40 feet wide and unstriped, Richardson has the highest daily volume of cars. And there's some spots where there's higher 85th percentile speeds, but Richardson is in the top, 3 there on average as well.
So is it a situation where you might want to pilot something like this in the near term?
Yeah, I think that's
That's what
it is.
I was going to argue for is that, first of all, I don't think we need to wait. A little bit more context, and if my memory serves, Ross, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the mayor received complaints about this.
Yes.
And so the public was complaining to the mayor, and the mayor kicked it down to Ross and I, and then we put it on the agenda. I don't think we should wait because this is really well-known technology. If you go to, the urban thoroughfare guides that NACTO has and so on, this is a best-known practice. A more expensive one that could be done if you were still facing problems is near intersections and fire hydrants. You would build out the curb into the parking lane. That would prevent parking there and also slow the motorists who are concerned about that thing that pokes out into the center of the road is what they're thinking. That can cause a problem with the parking protected bike lanes. You could have bike lanes that ran right through those islands, and instead of bump outs, you would have islands there in the parking. again, more expensive, but a good example of this is when they changed Tacoma Road to 25 miles an hour to protect all the vulnerable users that are there every day around Thoreau School. You just can't change the speed limit. You have to change the design. And what they went with was relatively expensive but very effective. And there are no bike lanes there, so the bump outs come right out to the edge of the traffic lane, and motorists are terrified and they drive slow, which is exactly working as designed.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, were the complaints from people who live there and want them to go slower, or were they from bikers or walkers at McKee or on the road?
So these complaints, from my understanding, came from residents who live on Richardson and wanted people to drive slower. And then people also mentioned this path and getting to and from McKee Farms Park.
I have heard that within the last few weeks as well.
Yeah.
The path doesn't have good sight lines to traffic, and if cyclists do not obey the stop sign, it could be tragic. Fortunately, when sight lines are bad, cyclists do not, in general, want to be hit. And so it serves bad sight lines serve as traffic calming for cyclists. And so we have not seen any. Do we have any crash history?
No, there's a couple of crashes that you could maybe contribute to speed on Richardson, but nothing at this intersection, really.
And I was pointing out to Ross when we were discussing putting this on the agenda that this intersection, I don't know if you can zoom in to see it, but you can barely make out that this once had a bicycle left turn lane right where the arrow is. And in some of the views, we looked back at DCI, Flydane on DCI map, that every other year survey, and from I think it was 2013 to 2017, you could see it quite clearly. That now, with the bike lane running up to that Schumann intersection, there would not be room for that bike lane or the painted island that you see there. They would be ground up.
Yep. And so that brings up kind of another reason I have for proposing this particular configuration. A lot of the stuff that has been here in the past is a little bit complicated as far as these things go, like bike-only left turn lanes. I've never seen one of those anywhere else.
We think it's unique.
Yeah. And this is, like someone mentioned, very easy to build. It's just paint on the road, and very kind of standard. So I think when we implement some of these more exotic measures, we can get complaints from residents who are not on TTC and not, living and breathing this stuff. But that is a population that, we serve in the city as well, so.
Same people that complain about roundabouts.
Well, I'd like to see what Gabriella said, which was a prioritized list of the streets which we feel are of some concern. And maybe Richardson Street comes to the top of that list. I live a block from there. I don't live on Richardson, but I'm still dubious about an 85% speed of 30 miles an hour, which to my mind is what do you think the change will result in on Richardson? Like after all this, you snap your fingers and there's all this paint and stuff on there. I'm still thinking the number is, maybe it's 29 instead of 30, but I don't think it changes very much. Again, this agenda item was so obscure to me that other than Bill, there's no resident living on Richardson sitting here in this meeting reinforcing their concern about speeding on Richardson. So, and I understand we're not necessarily going to get massive members of the public here, but it almost sounds like we've got a big gallon of paint we can't wait to do something with, and let's just start painting this street. And I don't understand what the objective is, other than it makes us feel like we're doing something to a street that doesn't seem to have a real speeding issue and doesn't seem to have accident issues. So
Well, wasn't it in response to the mayor got comments, is what brought it up?
Sure, but again, like, that wasn't in any of the materials. We just like,
Yeah.
there's 12 people, or there's 70 people, or there's every other resident on Richardson is concerned, or.
And I think it's a good point. I mean, I'm curious, Ross, like, and also in the interest of time, since this has gone on quite a long time, we have quite a lot of agenda items. Like, what would you like to hear from the committee? Do you just want to hear our thoughts on if we like the concept, or is that kind of where we're at? Because and just to respond to you, Rick, I think it's not just about the speed, but it's the lack of sidewalks. That's one of the core issues, and that's true for all the roads that are wide.
Well, are we expecting that people will walk in the bike lanes? Is that our,
Honestly, yes.
is that our
I
intention?
walk on the road right now.
Oh, absolutely. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the bike lane is not at the curb in your drawing there.
Right.
It's away from the curb.
They would
So-
walk in the parking lane,
If there are no cars there, which normally
right,
there are.
and then they would walk in the bike lane to get around the car.
And right, there's no physical barrier there, but the paint does serve as a visual indication for drivers where they should drive. They're not kind of spread all over the road away from the center line because you don't want to drive next to a car that's oncoming to you.
If you like continue.
I'll just finish this item.
So, yeah. But I guess what I'm hearing from the commission is there are varying opinions on this, and nothing is kind of like a home run, unanimous decision.
Well, maybe can we just go around and so like
Yeah.
I would like to explore this further.
Mhm.
I guess I think it's an issue that I hear about pretty frequently, and it's representative of an issue in many parts of Fitchburg, and I would like to hear your thoughts on it in your professional opinion, and see what the option would be, and also just see what the procedure would be. Like, do we just add it to the capital improvement plan? Do we add it to the budget in the fall? Like, what would it look like to actually try something like this, and at what timeline? So I really want your assessment, but I like the concept, and I would like to learn more about it and get a recommendation from you. But I don't know if Logan wants to. I could go around.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll make it really quick. So, as somebody who's biked around the city, the two spots I've always felt the most uncomfortable, other than when I think of kind of a lack of clarity of what's going on, are Richardson and Ospenson. Seem very similar. I don't know if we would consider them minor collectors or neighborhood collectors, or they're just kind of local streets that just happen to serve some of that purpose.
The local roads that serve some sort of collector purpose.
Okay. And I think since they've both been, it looks like Pacer ratings, they've both been recently resurfaced in that entire area, so it seems like now is a good time. I don't think we need to wait for the comprehensive safety action plan to put some paint down. And if it turns out that we wanna change it 5 years from now, it sounds like we have a precedent of doing that. So if we're not talking about infrastructure like bump outs and things, I'm not as concerned about $40,000 or $50,000 of paint that can be easily removed if, for whatever reason, we decide that this configuration is not acceptable. So, more of this, please.
Can I
Stephen.
make a comment?
Wait, hold
Because
on.
I was watching what you were discussing, and because I brought this to your attention. Is
Can you please just for the record state your
yeah, I want to tell you. What do I need to say?
just who you are.
Oh, I am
Just-
Julia Arata Prata. I live like 2 blocks away from there, and I am the mayor of the city. So this brought to my attention when I was doing doors in this area, and this is something that I heard with multiple neighbors. Maybe they don't come to the meeting because they don't know that there was a meeting. You know, we should do a better, because I will tell you that if we tell the neighbor that we were having this discussion, you will have plenty of people here. And my concern, because I have experienced myself this, is the concern that they have is that the street has like a curve, and people are speeding, and then if you're crossing the bike path, and there are a lot of children I have seen in bikes crossing and going from the bike path to the other side of Schumann, and people are coming through that, it's like a curve, speeding, That one is the concern, is you have to stop right away because then you have the kid crossing. Because the kids are not gonna wait, they're gonna cross, you know what I mean? So, and I have seen with my own eyes, and this is what I collected from talking to the people when I was doing doors in that area. And now they say, now it's summer, the kids are outside with the bicycle, and this one is to say, or we need to do a better signage there, or educate, or put like a slow down, you know what I mean, like those signs. And I know there is one of the neighbors, they have a slow down sign there. Yeah, I have seen one of those houses. But this is where I brought this to my attention because I didn't hear this for one neighbor or two. It was several. And this is what I say, and they talk about that intersection being dangerous for kids, and the kids that they are also waiting for the school bus in the morning, that sometimes people are speeding. And I want to be honest to you, I saw bicycle, I have the US, the postal, carrier, they don't stop, they follow, they don't stop at the stop sign. That one is another issue in that Wilshire and Richardson intersection. I have seen. I don't know. We live close. We live in the same block, but yeah, you can see it. Yeah, but this is where I collected this information. So I want to be clear with that.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's helpful.
And in the interest of time, I haven't really heard a lot from Maggie,
Yeah, I wanna
Ariel, and
I want to
Elizabeth,
hear
and I'd
from
love to
another
hear.
traffic engineer too.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to share some thoughts, and if anyone else wants to add any last comments too, but.
I use that intersection on foot almost every day, and I'm pro paint because it is a lot of fast traffic that come around the corner, and yeah, it'd be nice to have stuff calming traffic there, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, from like a bike or walking standpoint, I think obviously the paint would make people feel safer. Like Rick said, I don't know if it's necessarily gonna slow the speeds down incredibly. But like the mayor mentioned, she was talking about like the kind of crossing the street. I don't know if what we talked about necessarily provide the solution for the people crossing, kind of with like kids darting out. So maybe that would be a further discussion. But
And that is something we've discussed a couple of times while I've been here in Public Works, is crosswalks here. And it's, not having sidewalks here makes it difficult to stripe something crosswalk-wise that makes sense to people. Because you're not sending pedestrians to a safe location, you're sending them to the road.
Or street.
Yeah, so.
There could be a benefit. So one of the things we run into though is the like back and forth with drivers over if we're crossing or if you're not crossing, and if they're gonna stop and let you cross, and actually having like stripes on the ground does help notify drivers that you can cross. And I don't know where you're sending people, but actually like notifying drivers that there's a path that ends and the pedestrians have to go somewhere.
You could use a pedestrian warning sign or a bike and pedestrian.
Right, which,
Here.
yeah, in any proposal with this, I'm gonna put in
Oh, yes,
warning
I see it
signs,
now.
no matter what else we do.
Okay.
So that's like a non-negotiable from my perspective.
To that point, very quickly, could you add just paint the entire intersection box almost? Would that be something that has been done, or instead of
Has
just
it
kind
been
of?
done? Yes. Would I do it on this low traffic of an area? Probably not.
Okay.
You're not having a block the box problem here.
Yeah,
Because there's no stop, this is stop control in Schumann.
on Schumann, not on Richardson.
And Elizabeth, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm also supportive. I don't think we should wait for the plan. That could be like a few years. And then if we are, so I think we might as well go for it. And I do think if we're prioritizing, complaints should be a factor that brings things to the top. If people are saying this is what I want to feel safer in my neighborhood, I think that's worthy of making it towards the top, even if maybe the statistics don't see it as the biggest problem.
Any final comments?
So I just want to say, I'm not opposed to the concept. I'm somewhat opposed to the process by which it arrived on our agenda.
And the goals need to be clear.
And, if 3 years from now, Julia's running for mayor again, we've got paint on the street, and she goes door to door, and now the majority of people complain that there's a bike lane that interferes with them being able to back out safely from their driveway, then, we'll go the opposite direction. I don't, it's unscientific to me. The people who don't have an issue didn't say anything. And maybe that's 80% of the people that live on Richardson. So I don't know. But if we think that this is the most important street to do this with, and we've got a bunch of paint that doesn't have a home yet, then go paint Richardson Street. I will ask how mail delivery happens when we do something like this.
It's generally no parking in front of mailboxes, right?
Yeah, this wouldn't impact mail delivery at all.
I think in the other design that you had up there, I don't understand
Oh,
how
the
mail
bollards.
get delivered.
Yeah, so the bollards would cause an issue with mail delivery and
Trash.
trash, anything that has to go up next to the curb.
Contractors.
With what?
Contractors who have lawn care equipment or other things where
They have to park in a legal parking place.
Yeah. But also the biggest thing for the city would be snow removal.
Yeah.
That's why we have not done any bollards like this on the curb, because it would just be a huge headache for our snow removal crews and make clearing this take 3 or 4 times as long as it does now. So.
Steve.
Yeah, I wanted to point out, I put in the street view, I put the parking lane on the west side because of historical precedent. But it doesn't need to be on the same side all the way, as we have seen, for example, on Lacey Road between Seminole and Fish. The parking alternates, and that actually, the deflection of the travel lane has a traffic calming effect. Can you go back to the other one, Ross? But if the parking lane, either if this proposal was used or if the parking lane was on the right side in the one parking lane configuration, then one could, where that yellow curb is, one could do a quick build where you nail bollards into the asphalt to form an island that prevents parking as an experiment toward a future moving of the curb. That would give more visibility to people emerging on the path onto Richardson Street. Snow removal is addressed by the fact that you just let the snow pile there in the winter, because in the future, if you had a curb, that's what you would do. Snowplow drivers don't have a straight shot now. They do have to deflect around this obstacle, but they are skilled at what they do and can, even though it will slow them down, they still can do it. There's precedent for the quick build in Fitchburg. If you go to the intersection of Williamsburg and Whitney Way, you will notice a neck down at that intersection. That was vertical bollards for a year or so, and the problem was that people were whipping around the right turn from westbound to northbound and not stopping. So in order to better enforce the always stop there, they built that as a quick build. It was very successful and subsequently made permanent with curbing. So while curbs are expensive, quick builds are cheap, and that's another treatment that could be used in multiple or places or just a single place along this road.
Do you feel like you've gotten enough feedback?
Yes.
So with that, we can move to the next item, and I'm going to pass the chairship back to our chair, Steve Arnold.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
filling it.
I appreciate the help, Gabrielle. I apologize to the commission. I had a mental lapse and was thinking 7 o'clock, even though we have always met at 6:30. So I'm confusing it with my other 7 o'clock evening meeting.
Well, you were early.
Yeah, I know, I was figuring it'd be about 12 minutes early. So we took up Richardson and Schuman, so now we're on 6A,
Correct.
Fitchburg Road update.
Yeah, so quick update hopefully on Fitchburg Road. So as I think everybody kind of knows at this point, we've had a year or more of delays on this project. So basically just, this is a summary of why we had delays in the design. So Bureau of Structures, which is a WISDOT department, has had a lengthy review process. We're building a very big wall, retaining wall under a highway bridge, and they have obviously had some feedback on that. That wall is basically to make room for the bike path on the east side of the road. That's what made that necessary.
Structures is quite a title.
Yeah. We've also had a lot of coordination with Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District. That's who all of the sanitary sewer in Fitchburg gets delivered to the city of Madison, the MMSD, and then it goes to the Nine Springs treatment plant. So they have a lift station there that all of that area of Fitchburg sanitary sewer goes to, and they are in the middle of design changes on that. So we've had to coordinate our sewer design with MMSD, and that's also been a lengthy process. Then we've had a lot of public utility coordination like MG&E and AT&T and those kind of companies. They have been throwing up some roadblocks, and we've been trying to coordinate as best we can through those roadblocks. Property acquisition has also been a challenge that we're hopefully coming to the end of this week. And then with the property acquisition, there have also been a lot of legal challenges that we've kind of been trying to stay on the correct side of. The main one, if any of you aren't familiar, is Sojourner versus Egg Harbor. So this basically, through a bunch of different appeals, makes a city able to condemn for a sidewalk, but not for a multi-use path. So originally, based on this ruling, cities were not able to condemn for sidewalk either, and then it was taken to higher and higher appeals courts, and then eventually, I believe the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that a sidewalk was part of the street, but a multi-use path is not. And you can condemn for streets, but not for things that aren't part of a street. So because of these delays, we've now split this project into 2 phases. Phase 1 will happen in 2026, Phase 2 will happen in 2027. So Phase 1 is basically from Quarry Vista Drive to the north, and Phase 2 is from Quarry Vista Drive to the south. So basically everything south of there will still be open in 2026. And then to the north will be open in 2027. But the Fitchburg and Lacey intersection is kind of the important traffic point here. So
I note that for Phase 2, you will be able, at appropriate speeds, to go through the neighborhood and connect to the north from Lacey Road.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which I'm sure they'll be happy about.
Well, there'll be a lot more people happier that they can get there again. So
yeah, so that likely will be our detour. We haven't finalized that, but yeah, we'll implement temporary traffic calming measures as needed, because that's a lot more traffic than those roads usually get. So with the legal challenges and the property negotiations, as I was mentioning, we have basically had to remove some path from this project. So most of the path going north on the east side of the road is within the city's current right-of-way. So we don't need any property to put that path in. We're putting it in on property the city already owns. So that's easy. Around the roundabout here, north is to the right, if you're looking at the screen. So Lacey Road's going down, and Fitchburg is going left and right. So there was going to be a little bike bypass on the west side of the road, because we have had to go into condemnation for a couple of those properties on the west side, we have removed that entire bike bypass. Basically now, bikers going southbound in the bike lane will have to take a lane in the roundabout in the same spot a car will be potentially using. So we'll have signs that say bikers use full lane and kind of bike symbols, bike lane ends and bike symbols kind of entering and possibly in the roundabout. Our roundabout designer is kind of still finalizing that because this isn't a thing that is normally done.
Can you point at where that is?
The bike bypass is this section here.
So what's in red or what's?
Yes, so the red on this map, on this page, is things that were originally designed for this project and we are removing.
Okay, so red means it's going away.
Correct.
Got it.
So also this bike path on the southeast corner, will also need to be removed. This doesn't currently connect to anything going south, but the development to the south is going to be required to have a bike path along Fitchburg Road. So the idea was this would connect that bike path to the one on the north side of Lacey, and you'd have some great connectivity there. But that property owner, we also had to go into condemnation with, so we had to remove that bike path. There's other routes for that one. We can snake it around behind their lot, or we can wait for that property to change hands and then negotiate with the new property owner.
I was gonna ask, how easy is it to add this back in, given it's possible in 3 or 5 years we can condemn for multi-use, like the law could change?
So that will depend on how that law is worded, if it is retroactive or not retroactive. But like you said, there are some law changes that are proposed in Wisconsin State Legislature right now that the Bike Fed is working to get passed that would make it legal for a city to condemn for bike facility. Yes, any
Go back to the way it was.
Yeah. So if that law is written so that it is retroactive, we would be able to put this in the next day. With the way the law is currently written, if we condemn for this, so that's the other portion. We're still condemning for the same amount of land here because we have utilities that are going in under these paths, and you can condemn for utilities.
We just can't put a bike path over.
We just can't put a bike path on it.
That's insane.
So legally, we could do it the next day, but like.
If the law is changed.
If the laws changed correctly, but like, would it be so expensive it wouldn't be a priority? Or would it be something that we would likely, it'd be easy financially to do, like we would still probably prioritize?
May I speak to that, Ross? Because I have a report.
Sure.
So I wrote this up in great detail as an example of why this law is a bad law, needs to be changed. And I sent it to our representative and senator. And you guys got copies, right?
Yes.
Memory's failing. Got a call back yesterday from Senator Ratcliffe's office and from the Chief of Staff, and he was very supportive. He thanked us for the stories. They're very important in getting things through the legislature. I had also discussed this with the mayor. She was copied on that. She thanked me for it. And I discussed it with Randy, our state representative, Randy Udell. And the mayor and Representative Udell agreed that it would be a good thing for Ross to bid this out with the pink stuff as an option. Because the build for this portion of the project is 2027, and there will be a new legislature in January. And therefore, many people are hoping for a shift in the kinds of things that can get a public hearing and get passed into law. So Senator Ratcliffe's office will introduce a bill. If somebody else is working on it, she'll co-sponsor it. And that will make this legal. And I pointed out to them each time in the email originally, and also when I spoke to Sam and to Representative Udell, that this issue of retroactivity, that we can't have a situation where condemned land is poisoned and can't ever have these facilities in the future, and they have that in their drafting notes. So that would be my request to you to keep it in there as an option, and because mobilization and rework are expensive, and we don't, even if we have the opportunity to do it after the project's finished, it will be more expensive than if we do it when all the equipment's on site and everything else.
Yeah. So we actually already are bidding it out as an option.
Excellent.
And going forward with that, so.
If I follow the red part that you're taking out to the south, what happens at the end of it?
To the south?
On the, what is it, the west side, I guess,
We'll stop at Tonto Trail now.
does it just come to a stop anyways?
This one?
No, up above. Like,
Oh.
that's the part you can't build, right?
Yeah, a biker would
happens there?
exit the bike bypass and go onto the bike lane, which isn't,
That would
it's
happen.
not,
That would have happened anyway. They would have just bypassed the roundabout. The only difference between the red part being there and not being there is they end up in the road earlier.
yes, in
They
the
have to go-
roundabout.
They have to go through the,
Roundabout
Yeah.
and then on the road, as opposed to going
Yes.
around the roundabout and then being in the road. Either way,
Correct,
after the roundabout, they're gonna be in the road.
yeah.
Got it.
Or they could have taken this bike bypass
Yep.
and used the crosswalk
And
to
gone
get
down.
to the bike path
Okay.
on the other side and gone south from there.
How far
but now
does
they
that go?
can't because that won't be there.
With this project, it goes maybe 100 feet past this drawing. In 4 or 5 years, it will go half a mile or a mile south.
Yeah, I see that that is the more serious omission because of the connection to the south.
Yeah. There are more opportunities to fix that part than on the west side. On the west side, we basically it's only a change in the law. We can fix that. But the other side, the east side, there's a few other ways, like going around the property, like I said. So,
How many of our current roundabouts have people who just bike through them versus something like this?
that entirely depends on the confidence of the biker. I know personally a few bikers who are not involved on like a bike and ped committee or bike fed that don't like taking these bypasses and just take their lane in a roundabout. But I would say that's, I don't know, maybe 10% of bikers do that. I don't know.
I'll give you my perspective, and I think it's a common one, is that on a four-leg roundabout, if I'm going to make basically a right turn and make the first exit, then I will take the ramp. And I'll go up, take the cross, and then go back down the bike ramp, back onto the bike lane. If you are going past the first leg to the second or third leg, now you have to stop and go perpendicular across 2 lanes of traffic for each leg you're crossing, and it's much easier to be in the motor vehicle general purpose lane. And that's a common, we all often are asked, why do you need bike lanes and a side path? Well, you need the side path for kids and families biking and dog walkers and rollerbladers and everything. But people who are okay with being in traffic would prefer the bike lanes because on the side path, every driveway is a conflict point, and every side street is a stop sign. Whereas if you're on the bike lane, you're missing all of those conflicts. And so it's much smoother sailing.
When the red is not a bike path, what will the surface be?
Grass. So,
Ross, have we had any concerns raised by folks like the town of Verona, town board, or anybody about this? Or are they, since we're kind of leading the project, they're just
yeah, so the town of Verona has been involved in this project from the beginning. We work with Chris Barnes, their Director of Public Works, and then Sarah Gaskell, their administrator, a lot on this project. Chris is at almost all of our property acquisition meetings, so he's intimately involved in this.
Okay. And then just really quickly, since I know we've talked before that we like to have one major project a year in the city, especially, you know, north-south, you don't want to do two north-south roads in the same year. Do you expect then that now splitting this into 2 years could affect whatever reconstruction project we may tackle in 27, whether that's that last leg of Sain north of what was just done or whatever else is in the pike at that time?
So originally we had been planning Lacey Road between Seminole and Fish Hatchery for 2027. That's not a major reconstruction project, but it's kind of partway between a resurfacing and a reconstruction. We have pushed that to 2028 on our resurfacing calendar. So that road has been pushed because of the phasing of this project. And it's part of, it's not necessarily part of the signed detour for this project, but we anticipate additional traffic on it because Fitchburg Road is closed. So.
Anything else you want to hear from us?
Nope, this was just kind of an update.
Any other questions for staff before we move on? Okay, CTM-MM.
All right, this is another kind of update thing I've got. So we've got bike and pedestrian underpass going under County Highway MM. This is a few hundred feet north of where the path currently dead ends on the east side of MM, north of Terravesa. So originally this was gonna have 30 feet curve radii. Once we submitted preliminary sketches to WISDOT, they told us we needed 166-foot curve radii for the paths. We'll get into that when I have sketches on the next slide. And a 5% running slope for the path, which previously this had, you need usually 8% running slopes for multi-use paths and sidewalks. We've also been coordinating a lot with the developments here. So I mentioned Syncopation and Osborne Home Farms earlier in the Lacey and 14 TIA discussion. That's where this underpass is as well. And then on the right side, I've got kind of a schedule for this project. So these are some of the sketches we've got going right now. So because of that 166-foot curve radii, that's what's shown in this top image, is curve radii of 166 feet. We have had to skew the structure under County Highway MM. So previously, it was like you would normally think of a crosswalk, it just goes straight across the road. It's the shortest structure you have to build, costs the least amount of money. When you skew the structure has to get longer to account for that change in angle. And it kind of has bumped out this curve on the east side of the road. Previously, we didn't really need any property from this property owner, but now we need a pretty significant amount. We've been able to make this work with the Trilogy and Syncopation developments on the west side. Basically, it's gonna kind of go through the Syncopation development and then come back out to County Highway MM on the north side of that development. That's all kind of still in progress. We're having a lot of meetings to discuss this. So some of that stuff may change, but that's where we're at right now. The bottom image here is a cross-section view of the beam guard or guardrail that will be on each side of County Highway MM, basically over the overpass. So we're gonna have to widen the road here a little bit and put in beam guard over the top of this structure so that cars can't veer off the road, and then you can have issues with cars basically going downwards and running straight into the wing wall of your culvert structure, which is an extremely deadly crash to have. So
Not just kind of dead.
I can't see very well, Ross, but it's 10-foot travel lanes and 7-foot paved shoulders.
11-foot travel lanes, and then 7-foot paved shoulder that acts as the clear zone between the travel lane and the beam guard.
The fog line would separate the,
It would be at that
and so that
11-foot mark.
would be also a de facto bike facility.
Yes.
They're not gonna try to put rumble strips or anything.
No.
Ross, since let me start that question over. Right at the top of the first image, right where your cursor is, the path crosses a private driveway that serves several homes. Given the grade of that, how's that gonna work?
That is Laniello Court. It's not a private drive, it's a city road that is gravel.
I thought Laniello was on the south side of this, or it'd be the west side of MM, so the bottom of that image. So then at the top. Oh no, wait. Okay, so north is. I'm looking at this.
North is to the right.
Okay, so then I just have Laniello mixed up with that. Okay, my question is.
I'll pull this location up so we can all see it. So this is the location of this underpass, and it's spelled Lionello here, but it's actually Laniello. This is a platted city street that will be vacated with these developments because this path will cut straight through it, and we won't be up to the existing grade by the time we go through this street. So we're just gonna,
So
the
they'll
plan
come
right
in
now is
somewhere
just
else.
to get rid of the street, and they'll come out to MM in another location.
Okay, I just had it mixed up. Then I thought it was other side of that. So thank you.
So, yep. Anything else on this?
Sounds like it got more expensive,
It did get more expensive, yes.
30%.
We're still working through that, probably not quite at 30%. But we are going to be building less of this path and having the developer build more of it because the development is happening kind of in sync with this project, where before we were kind of thinking we'd build this underpass and then the development would come later, but now it's gonna all happen at about the same time.
It seemed like we had grant funds to build the tunnel,
We do.
and that still is sufficient.
We still have we will have the same amount of grant funding. The city will need to bear the increased cost. So once I have those estimates, we'll provide them. So,
Ross, how will the tunnel be constructed? Will they close MM a lane at a time or something like that?
we are not at that point in the project yet, but I'm anticipating having to fully close MM here, like the county did for the culvert replacements they did last year.
Yep, I remember those.
And I'll just add really quickly to a comment I've made in this room, and I know Steve has made also, about the timing of the development, because if this development doesn't move forward, as we've seen with others on this site, are we then building a thing to a tunnel to nowhere, a bridge to nowhere, if you will. I just heard from the developer earlier today who has said their entitlement schedule is moving quickly, and they are moving forward very quickly on this, including with finalizing developer agreement with the city today. So I feel more confident than with prior developments that this will actually happen.
This one has gone farther.
Yes.
Okay, BRT funding update, Ross.
So basically, the long and short of this is there is a $4.2 million budget amendment that is going to be going through Common Council, Board of Public Works, and Finance at the dates on this screen right now. In your packet, those dates I have had to update and delay by one meeting cycle. So I'll get that corrected in the meeting minutes, but that happened while I was on vacation last week. So basically, why we need a $4.2 million budget amendment. The federal share, originally we were thinking was 80%. Now it's looking like it will be more like 70%. And then also the cost estimate for North-South BRT was originally based on pre-construction estimate for the East-West BRT. So at that point, we thought our portion was going to cost $7.5 million total, and then 20% of that was $1.5 million. So after East-West BRT was constructed, the cost of our portion went up to $25 million. And then we started looking at cost-saving measures, like turning the center running stations into side running stations. That brought our cost down to $17 million, which is obviously still more than double that original $7.5 million. But it's basically what we think we can cut to still provide high-level BRT service. So 70% of that $17 million is borne by the federal government. 30% of it is Fitchburg's share. We already have $1.5 million in the 2025 CIP, and we need an additional $4.2 million amended into the 2026 budget.
So for me, this is a big sign of relief because I was worried about a 0% federal share. So
Yes, I was too.
So this for me is really good news.
You said-
Other comments or questions?
Yeah, you said looks like it'll be 70%. Does that mean it's not for sure? It could change again?
So there is an appropriations bill that is currently somewhere in the federal legislature that would fund this at 70% in 2026 dollars. That appropriations bill has not been passed, so it's not final yet. But I don't anticipate them, messing with a project as small as this one. Most of the projects in this grant program are in the $500 million range. This is at $118 million total. So this is kind of small potatoes as far as
Yeah, they're focused
this
on the
program
Gateway
goes.
project
Yeah.
for $10 billion to
Yep.
blow under the Hudson River.
Yeah.
Ross, do we know what our, where we're going to get that money from in the budget? Like, do we have other savings that or other projects we're able to pull that from, or?
So, what's that?
Debt financed?
Sorry.
It'll be debt financed, or?
So some of it will be borrowing. Some of it will come from TID 10. So Misty is working on that right now. She knows a lot better, the budget structure than I do.
Where to find money?
Yeah. So I basically tell her we need this much money, and if we can't figure out where to get it from, then we can't do the project. And if she can figure out where we get it from, then we can do the project. And it's approved by council, obviously.
No pressure, Misty.
Yeah, really.
In this case, she's very confident in this, and this project is obviously a huge priority for the mayor and a lot of
council
her
members.
council.
For some reason, I thought this wasn't until 2027 or 2028. Why is this in the 2026 budget?
Yes, so originally, so the construction for this is in 2028. The Fitchburg portion is slated for 2028 right now. We were originally going to add this $4.2 million into the 2027 CIP. That would kind of be the normal way to do this for the city for this amount of money. We don't like doing $4.2 million budget amendments since our annual budget is only like 30-something million. This is a huge amount of money, but for the Small Starts grant program, the money from the local share needs to be allocated before they will give you before they will put you in the appropriations bill for federal matching funds.
Has to be committed.
Yep. So that was why we had to put that original 1.5 million in the 2025 CIP and not in the 2028 construction year like we normally would.
Got it. But we probably won't issue that debt until 2027 or 2028, whenever we.
Right, exactly.
Anything else on this from commissioners? B-cycles.
Yes, I have another slideshow for that. Steve, do you want to give an intro to this item?
Sure. This is a presentation that was a general report by B-Cycle on their performance that they give to stakeholders. And this version has been enhanced to contain specific information of interest to Fitchburgers. And it has previously been presented to the Bike and Ped Commission at their last meeting at the beginning of the month. Anything else I should say?
No.
So just say it.
Yeah, I think if you want Phil Groupie's explanation of some of this data, you should watch that Bike and Ped Commission meeting from last month. He gave a lot more information than is in this document, and he actually showed his own spreadsheet that he uses to kind of track usage at some of the B-cycle stations, and he does a really good job tracking that stuff. So I can kind of just run through this presentation quickly.
Ross and I were both there, and we can try to answer any questions you may have.
So they ran obviously some surveys. A lot of this is Madison.
The whole system.
As well as Fitchburg, yeah, the whole B-cycle system. So these are some stats on, what your trip for B-cycle was for. A lot of them are, social activities or just for fun bike rides. There's a decent amount of commuting, which I was glad to see. Which transportation would you have otherwise used? A lot more walking than I expected, but a decent amount of personal car usage was replaced by a B-cycle. Also a lot of public transportation, which, 6 one way, half dozen the other.
I should say that these kinds of things are from a survey of B-cycle users that they do annually.
Yep.
Not the average trip length. That comes from the system.
How many B-cycle trips replaced a car trip, and then age breakdown as well, which it's used younger rather than older.
How many of your B-cycle trips replaced a car trip jive with, I would have just walked instead? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
It's just only the car portion of that other.
Oh,
Right.
it is just the car portion, got it.
So about 50% of trips are represented in, this.
Gotcha, okay.
Replacing car trips. And also this mode replacement is not doesn't add up to 100%, because some of your trips you might have walked, some of your trips you might have driven. It's a multi-selection question.
Oh.
And then equivalent greenhouse gas and CO2 emissions replaced, almost 1 million pounds in the Madison B-cycle system. So that's a pretty good number and jives with the city of Fitchburg's goals and our sustainability plan. So this is total e-bikes, stations and docks in the Madison system. We have less than these in the city of Fitchburg. And then these are membership numbers. Here's a map of the entire system. So as you can see, we're decently represented in Fitchburg, but there's a lot more in the denser areas of Madison. Trips by month, the Fitchburg graph looks very similar to this one as far as the kind of distribution of the graph, where you have really very few trips in January and February, and then more as the summer goes on.
But yellow is 2024 and gray is 2025.
Correct.
So every month is less.
Yes. Did Phil give a reason for that bike and ped?
I don't remember one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure why that is, but you're right, ridership is down in 2025.
Okay.
Sponsorship results. So these are Fitchburg stations. So these are stations sponsored by CETA. So I believe these are ordered by total. These are not
Ordered
really
by
ordered.
anything.
So in Phil's spreadsheet he presents in BPC, he orders them by bike checkouts and checkouts per day and a couple of other metrics.
What does sponsorship mean?
So that's a great question, and I don't know the exact specifics, but CETA
They say,
basically.
so, right, these are the 22 stations that we have.
Mhm.
And they're giving the station names and not sponsorships in this case.
You mean
By
there's-
sponsored, we or our TAP grant covered the capital cost of these stations.
Oh, okay.
So B-Cycle is generally funded for operations by its memberships, and the bikes and the stations are funded by sponsors, often businesses or governments that want stations. But
In this case, Fitchburg wanted stations and applied for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant
Yes.
to help get more stations.
And I believe that the number I've been using is $25,000 for 10 docks and 5 bikes.
Yes, that's the cost of basically one large station.
Yep.
Are we obligated to keep stations at some of these locations? I'm looking at I'm sorry?
I don't know the answer to that, but Phil does.
Okay.
I think the answer to that is that if someone like a hotel sponsored a station, then they have it for 3 years.
Okay. I just am looking at like the senior center, the community center, and the library, all three in this city block on this campus that we're sitting in. And 2 of them are very low ridership.
Mhm.
They're 2 of the 3 lowest, and the other one, the Rusty B, was only in for part of the season in
Yep.
25, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so yeah,
So
they're-
I'm like, could we just condense those and maybe move them elsewhere in the network, or
So
combine 2 into 1?
yeah, I will say the stations around City Hall, or the Civic Campus more appropriately, they're a lot smaller stations. They're not the 25 bike docks like Steve mentioned. The one by the senior center is, I think, 4.
There's 4 down there, I think there's 4 here.
Yep.
And the library is the biggest one. That's a station in its own right. But what's happening out here is that they took a regular station and split it up because there's traffic from both sides of the building. And people who use B-cycles know that if there's no B-cycles here, they can walk around the building and get one. So they are going to score low when it's per station. If you consider them per dock is a better way to do it.
Yep.
On campus, there are stations with 24 docks.
And like our McKee Farms Park stations are
That's
much
10.
larger than these, yeah. So these are not necessarily all apples to apples.
Okay.
Like you said, some were installed later in the 2025 season. I think Rusty B only had 3 months that
That
it was
sounds about
active.
right, yeah.
So I'm anticipating next year that one will be much more heavily used.
That's
Based on
gonna
the
be a
amount of traffic Rusty B gets.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty confident in that.
Can confirm.
Yeah.
All those Limerick residents coming up for
So,
a drink and food carts.
yep. One that was impressive to me was the Wyndham Hatchery Hill one.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised by that one, honestly. I just figured, I think of grocery shopping when I think of that area, so I didn't think that many people would be riding B-cycles to go get groceries. But there's a lot of other stuff in Hatchery Hill as well.
Great, it's a great way
Jason.
to get to restaurants. I biked there for my birthday. I went from Swan Creek and took it there, so I didn't have to worry about how to get home after consuming an alcoholic beverage or several.
There you go.
Jason Adamani, who is the co-owner of Addisys, and lives down at the south end of McKee Farms Park, takes a B-cycle to work and home every day.
Ah, he's probably a good one.
He tells me that B-cycle system has saved him the cost of buying another automobile for his teenager.
I also used the B-cycles a lot when I did the week without driving back in 2024 to get to and from the bus, basically. And
Coming up again this
it
October.
worked great. It really was functional. And if the places that they were put were in the right places because they were functional for me to get to the bus station.
And everybody knows that you can get a free B-cycle membership for a month, right?
Yeah.
Everybody know that? You need the code? Okay.
And 25% off for an annual for the rest of the year, once that month is up.
So here's just kind of a visual graph of the Fitchburg sponsored stations. So yeah, Oak Bank, McKee Farms North, and Wyndham Hatchery Hill are, kind of shoot off of this graph. And then the Dolly Bike Hub and Novation Parkway are also pretty high ridership. So yeah. Here's the kind of totals for Fitchburg. So 32,000 total pounds of carbon offset and 6,300 total checkouts.
So of the 934,000 in the entire network, 32,000 is Fitchburg.
Yep. So Fitchburg is much worse set up for bicycling than the downtown core of the city of Madison. We know that, and this data shows that.
B-cycle was very impressed at the level of performance of the Fitchburg stations. They thought they would be worse because of more auto-oriented development and population density. So, they've got docs that are turning a bike over 10 times a day on campus, and we're getting 2 times a day or something like that.
Yeah.
There's also as the system continues to expand, there might be, if I had a bike station on Odana Road near where I worked, I could take a B-cycle to work, but there's no B-cycle stations around there. So it
None
limits
of the Southwest right now.
Yeah, it limits my options, but as it continues to expand, it would change some of the calculations for people, so.
Yeah. One thing to think about is there's almost double the amount of students at UW than we have in population in Fitchburg.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the student population is the ideal B-cycle population.
Yeah.
You live in an apartment, you're young, you're not going that far on campus, so yeah.
I think these numbers are huge though, and very impressive. I looked at this and spread it around, and then people were surprised, bus riders were surprised that they had stations near them that aren't visible. People get off at the top of Fish Hatch, and the Traceway one is a little harder to see, but it's close. Is there a way we can publicize on the bus shelters that there's a B-cycle station?
We
Nearby.
could look into that.
B-cycle users use the app,
Yeah,
so they can see where the stations are. They're not looking for them.
But
but I'm talking about
Not a
potential
B-cycle
users.
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe
yeah,
somebody
I see what you're saying.
would for the
And-
last mile, but they don't realize they have a B-cycle station so close.
And to add on to Elizabeth's point, a lot of our nicer bus shelters have built-in
Yes.
kind of locked areas to put signage that have sat empty for a long time that has bothered me incessantly. So some sort of signage would be
Yeah.
better than nothing. So.
We did use them for something with forestry.
Yeah, probably promoting the survey.
Yeah.
I used them all the time when I was mayor to publicize my listening sessions. I will note that the B-Cycle station on Traceway has moved to its new and permanent home in the concrete terrace in front of Hastahochi. So that's nice. Anything else on B-Cycles? I would like to have for a future agenda item talking about where we should have B-Cycle stations and particularly to connect with BRT and our enhanced bus service. And for that reason, I'm suggesting we talk about it rather than the Bike and Pen Commission. Let's go to reports for other bodies if there's nothing else on this. Gabrielle, Common Council. Oh, sorry, Logan, you're gonna do plan.
Okay, since we haven't met for 2 months, we'll start back with February 24th. We approved a rezone for the Gorman multifamily project on Index Road. It's kind of right across from Bella Springs. Index and Ochala is kind of the nearest cross street for that. We approved the resolution that I believe Ross mentioned, or I don't think it came before this body, but I think you mentioned it about going to circuit court to get a plat restriction removed so that we can have the VRT charging station at Triverton, Pike, and McKee. We also approved the preliminary assessment resolution for 2026 sidewalk replacement. Skipping to March 10th, we approved a resolution approving EV station site hosting agreement for a Charge Up Dane County grant program, adding some additional EV charging stations in the city. I believe it was at McKee Farms Park. And then
There's also one proposed, I don't think it's in that program, but a level 3 charger at City Hall.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And then March 24th, our most recent council meeting, we referred a couple things out that will be coming back to us in the near future at the council. Acceptance of the 2026 street resurfacing bid. Again, you can get a list of all the streets on our website or watch Ross's presentation from the March 25th committee of the whole meeting. Also referred out buying new LED street lights for street light replacements as they come forward. And then we approved a preliminary plat for that syncopation development that is west of MM and east of 14, right where the bike underpass is on March 24th. Approved the final plat for the first portion of we approved the final plat for uptown lots in along Stanley Park Place that's kind of behind the Rusty Bee, extending to Central Park Place. So that street that the Arlo is on would then extend all the way out to Central Park Place. And I'll just note that I made it a point that we can't have no bike and pen connectivity in there right now because of the detours that are already on both sides of Lacey Road because of other construction in that area. And then we approved the final plat for the first portion of the No Oaks Ranch that is just across the street from the plat that I just mentioned. So a lot of plats and a lot of things coming forward at 14 and Lacey. And that's my council update. Any questions?
Ross, do you want to give the bike and pen update? Such things as we have not talked about here today?
Yeah, so we talked about public works projects that affect bike and pedestrian connectivity. Andy talked about the Governor's Council on Biking.
Governor's Bicycle Coordinating Council. It is a body that has representatives for a number of different executive departments that coordinates things so that transportation and tourism and DOA and everybody are all working, if not in sync, at least not at cross purposes with respect to bicycling. And Andy chairs that.
And one of the big things there was e-moto regulations. So the difference between an e-bike and an e-moto. basically one has pedals and you're limited on speed, it's an e-bike, and one doesn't have pedals and you're not limited on speed, that's an e-moto. And the law defines those two, but they're not very well defined when you buy an e-bike or e-moto. So some additional enforcement is kind of needed at the point of sale there. You can watch, there's a lot of info about this and it gets really specific, so I would say watch Andy's explanation of it.
Yeah, we're working on that at the Bike Fed on the statewide basis, and there is a national bill proceeding to define these things. Right now, they're in no man's land in terms of they're not defined in statute. Some of them could fall into the moped or motorcycle category, except some of them are manufactured without vehicle identification numbers. And as a result, you cannot register them as motorcycles, or mopeds. So they're technically only allowed on private property. And parents are buying these things that can go 35 or even 55 miles an hour for their kids, thinking that they're buying them e-bikes. And most of it is mail order. All the bike shops and all the Wisconsin manufacturers are only selling the properly regulated and classified Class 1, 2, or 3 e-bikes, which are regulated in general as completely human-powered bicycles.
Yes. So for more info, watch that. Phil also presented on his TrafX counter data, which is the same type of counter that I just put up at the McKee Park Path and Schumann and Richardson intersection. So that data, basically shows what you would think our most used bike trails are our most used bike trails. And as you go further south, you get less bike traffic in Fitchburg. So, yeah, I think that's bike and ped.
And they went through the V-cycle report.
Yes.
Okay, now plan.
Yeah, plan commission. So I'm gonna add a little just detail to some of the things that Logan mentioned. The Gorman and Company project, which was a rezone to high-density urban. It's the first use of the high-density urban. We added a new part of the code. Basically, instead of just automatically replacing all high-density with a new code, we created a new type that basically reduces the need for planned development districts. So it is the first use of that, which is exciting. And it's going to be an artist's community. I mean, it can be for anybody, but like ultimately it's a 4-story building, 86 market rate, 60 affordable for 30%, 80% of area median income. But they will also have like an artist loft space that's rentable for either residents or for the community. It's a pretty neat little project, but still in the early phases of that. The final plat for the No Oaks Ranch, which has been under discussion for many years. This is basically, we've approved the preliminary plat earlier in the year. The final plat is really just for the first part, which is all the multifamily. It's T5 smart code, so it's going to be handled really through staff for the rest of the process. But it's going to be quite a bit of multifamily, and then they will also have some mixed use on the first floor. There are no single family in this initial final plat, but there will be in future plats. And so that will be coming over the next few years, and the way that Terra Mesa was built over many years.
And for orientation, this is the northeast quadrant of Uptown.
Yes. Also in regards to syncopation development, which was the near that underpass, basically that development that's actually moving forward. It has complicated, we're still working on potentially a TIF agreement to get them some funding to help with some of these extraordinary costs. But they have a really key partner, Trinity Continuum of Care Facility. It has 17 independent living, 40 assisted living, 16 memory care, and 46 skilled care. So it's kind of like a full service that people can move into different types of units depending on what they need. And then the area itself has 30 to 35 owner-occupied single family homes, 40 rental and owner townhomes, 312 mixed-use multifamily rentals, with potential for some affordable units in that, depending on financing. And then they will also have kind of a community like music amphitheater space. Syncopation is a musical term, so they kind of have used that as the kind of a theme. So it's an interesting project.
If you're looking for that on the planning site, it's Trilogy.
Yes, Trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see Syncopation and Trilogy will be names you'll see for, and Trilogy is probably the first part that will go in,
Yes.
when we get to that point.
That will be the first licensed nursing home in Fitchburg. We have assisted living and memory care, but no full nursing.
Interesting. It's nice when they have that like continuum of care facility. And then the other Nine Springs area, that's right near No Oaks Lanch. This is another T5 multifamily mixed use development in a similar fashion, going through Smart Code, just a different developer. And there's some complications with this stormwater in that area, but they're moving forward, and that area is going to be building up pretty fast. I think they're going to see a lot of development over there in the next few years. And then the department is moving forward with RFPs they actually already have RFPs complete for the comp plan update and the zoning code update. They had tons of great proposals. They probably have already selected someone by now, but I'll find out that at Plan Commission in a couple weeks and let you know next time. Thanks.
Okay, any future agenda items besides the one that I mentioned?
One small note from me. I question if we need the agenda review at the beginning of every meeting.
I tried to avoid that, and back when Bill Horns was on the commission, he kind of insisted on it. It's something that they only do at parks and maybe tree advisory.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
I would be very happy to change that if it were the.
Yeah, because you can amend the agenda anytime, so I would just encourage
So
That's
moved.
exactly.
Yeah.
remove it.
All right. So let it be written, so let it be done.
One thing that I was gonna mention too is a possible discussion of traffic calming in the area of Research Park and Sherrill. Before we had a full sense of the scope of the fatal crash that you mentioned in your staff report, Ross, I had wondered about whether we could do some kind of a temporary measure of some plastic bollards or something to build essentially a kind of a bump out because of all the events that happened, the farmer's market, all the things that are happening at Agora. Obviously, the nature of that crash changed that in some ways, which is why I didn't reach out to you about it earlier. But with our transit service and other things, I think that might be something that, if we're looking for ways to kind of replicate the success of the Greenway Coho, Roundabout in a Box, kind of those small projects that have a more short-term shelf life but gauge the need, that would be my pitch for something.
Yeah, I second that. I've been hatching a number of ideas that would apply there, but also could apply in a couple of other places like Cahill, Maine. Others? Okay, I want to rewind to the staff report. I am very sorry again that I was late. Did you talk, Ross, at all about why Metro might not be able to implement our changes in August?
I didn't really go into why they are not able to implement them. I just gave an update on their report card process. That they're going to provide a report card to us this month on a few different system metrics, and they're going to provide basically ways to improve on things they grade themselves poorly.
And we'll have
Can we grade them?
Yeah, there will be discussion between staff and Metro about what that report card says. If there's something that we don't feel they've been providing us, we have already told them that, and we'll say it again when they provide the report card.
Did they say in writing that they're not going to do what we want in August? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think we need to push back on that if we can.
I have been pushing back on that, and so have city staff at a higher level than me.
Good.
Like Chad and Tim.
I think we should kind of go down the Japanese continuous improvement 5 whys thing of why they think they're not going to do that, and why is that, and why is that, and see if there's anything that could be moved. At least I want to know why.
Yeah, I'll say the reasons they have given are valid. and they will be talking about them more once they provide that report card at a common council meeting.
Okay, and did you say city of the whole, committee of
Committee
the
of the whole
whole?
will have a meeting, yeah. We'll
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it'll either be at a committee of the whole or a council meeting,
Okay,
depending on timing and how big that agenda item should be.
should we have them come talk to us too?
It's been elevated past the level of TTC.
So we go to that meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, let us know what the date is as soon as you find it out.
Logan and I will be aggressive.
I
Well,
have
let us
no
all-
harm, no hesitation.
So will my kid.
Let Ross know, so Ross can inform all of us, so that we can all be there with our pitchforks and our
Sorry,
torches.
so I recall that, I think you said our agreement with the Madison Metro was up for a renewal or renegotiation in 2026.
Yes, yeah.
Is that something that we discuss? It sounds like maybe the agreement is silent on the point of who can decide the timing and the changes to routes, so that there's not a paragraph in there that we can point to that says, this is why we can tell you when we want the route to change, or how much notice we have to give you, or anything like that. So is that something that, should the nature of that agreement be a subject of discussion in here?
So the last renewal of that agreement was brought to TTC, and the next renewal will also be brought to TTC.
But it comes at pretty baked, and they try to have the same agreement with all the municipalities, although there are paragraphs that only apply to some, for example, the special funding that EPIC gives. So I would propose that that should be the current contract might be a good discussion item for us to go over and, maybe identify shortcomings that we want fixed when we used to have a representative, it used to be me, on the Contracted Services Oversight Committee, but Madison collapsed all of their transportation commissions down to a single one. And so now there is just one person, and I don't know who it is, but from one of the suburban communities that sits on a kind of a metro ad hoc committee and represents all of us, and we don't know who it is or how to tell them anything. So it's not as good a system, although sure saving Madison a bundle in terms of commission support.
It seems like with the.
I do think we're getting
Yeah, we're gonna do a
way past,
discussion item.
future agenda item of this, sorry.
I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.